Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deen Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namasate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Vicha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vacharam pangum langhayate girim yat kripatamaham vande Shri Guru Dintaranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hari Om Tat Sat. All right. So today, as we know, we are doing the 10 vices which are represented by the 10 heads of the Ravana. So we are going to do today Matsarya, which is jealousy. And it's a very important one because as we know, so let's go through all these. The 10 things that shouldn't go to your head. What are those? Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Mad, Matsarya, Ahankar, Manas, Buddhi and Chitta. Kam is lust, anger is Krodh, Lobh is greed, Moh is delusion or attachment, Mad is pride or arrogance, Matsarya is jealousy, envy, Ahankar is ego, Manas the mind, Buddhi the intellect, Chitta means will. So the last three you must be thinking why these should not go to our head. So we'll come to it when we get into it. But the point is that how these can be used not in the service of the Lord if we let them rule us. So we'll come back to it when we go there. So for now, today is Matsarya. Matsarya is jealousy. Okay. So now we'll go to the next slide. Jealousy. What exactly does jealousy mean? So jealousy basically is when you count someone else's blessings instead of your own. Okay. So as you can see in the picture, there's a picture in the slide. You can see this picture of a genie and a person who gets this genie. So what happens was, just to make the statement clear to you that what does jealousy mean, we'll go into a short story, which means that there was this one person who on his way found a genie, and he found basically a lamp, and when he rubbed the lamp, there came out a genie from the lamp. This genie asked him what he could do for that person, and the person, everybody in the first go, when you ask them, everybody wants material things. So he said that I want a big house. So the genie said, that's fine, I'll give you a big house, but the condition is that your neighbor will get double of what you get. So he said, okay. He didn't realize then that how it's going to affect him. But when he asked for a house, he got a big house, but he saw the mansion of the person was, the neighbor was double his size, the house, double the size of his house. It was a mansion for the neighbor. That really disturbed him. Then again, he went up to the genie and he said, I want a car. And then he got, the neighbor got 2 cars. So like that, everything multiplied for the neighbor when it came to material things. And this made him so angry. His jealousy had no bounds. He was so disturbed that he ended up asking he thought about it a lot, that how is it that he is going to take revenge of something that he had not even done, in the sense the neighbor had done nothing to him. And so then he went again up to the genie and he wanted to see the other person suffering. So he told the genie that please destroy my one eye. Now can you imagine this eye that is it's such a blessing that all our sense organs are functioning properly when you have the human birth. Not everybody is blessed with that also. The greatest gift that Krishna has given to you is that you can see, you can hear, you can taste, you can anything, that you can smell well, so the basic senses that Krishna has given us are functioning very well. And this person, out of his jealousy, was ready to lose his eye. And lo behold, the neighbor lost both the eyes, and then he was satisfied. Then he was content. He didn't mind losing one eye just so that the neighbor could lose the 2. So why was all this happening? Because he was jealous. Why was he jealous? Because he was not counting his own blessings. He got a house, he got a car, but that is not what was satisfying him. What was satisfying for him was that the neighbor lost something. So this is exactly what happens when we are jealous of someone. Now, this is one very important thing to remember, that, so far we've been doing how Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Mad, everything can be used in the service of the Lord if we put our heart to it. Jealousy is one thing which cannot be used in the service of the Lord. Now you must be wondering how. So we'll come to the stories, and you will understand why jealousy cannot be used in the service of the Lord. So, in fact, Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, first chapter, second text, there's a word in it called Nirmatsaranam, which means in the word-to-word meaning. Srila Prabhupada has given the meaning of it to be somebody who's not with pure heart. 100% pure heart is a person who's Nirmatsaranam. There is no Matsaranam, and that means there is no jealousy. So what exactly Srila Prabhupada is trying to tell us in that verse is that this Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the essence of all the Vedas and scriptures, this cannot be understood by a person who's full of jealousy. You have to be Nirmatsaranam. You have to have a pure heart to understand this Shastra, this Bhagavat. So, the derivative, how does this word Nirmatsaranam actually originate? So basically, Matsya, you heard the word Matsya, is a fish, right? The propensity of the fish is a bigger fish always tends to eat the smaller fish out of the fear that one day this small fish is going to become big and eat me. Now, before that happens, let me only eat this small fish. This is jealous nature. Nirmatsaranam, that is what we need to develop, the quality of having a pure heart. Now, jealousy is one trait which, when taken away from you, you have a purest heart. That is why Srila Prabhupada is saying that we need to be Nirmatsaranam to understand this Srimad Bhagavatam. This is, imagine, literally in the second shloka of Srimad Bhagavatam. You can go and check 1.1.2. So you need to be very pure to understand something like Srimad Bhagavatam. That is why it is very, very important to not even get close to this quality. Now, jealousy, basically, it all starts with comparison and competition, and then jealousy, and then envy. It goes on and on. So we need to stop it right at the beginning. How? Let's see the pastimes from Lord Shri Krishna's Leelas, how this jealousy was actually, so many of the people in who were present in his Leelas had these feelings, and how Krishna destroyed them. Can we please go to the next slide? All right. So in this slide, you can see the pastime of Shishupal being beheaded by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Who was Shishupal? Why was he jealous of Shri Krishna? Shishupal was actually his cousin. He happened to be his Masi's son. So he was very, very envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now the history goes back to him being Jai and Vijay. He was actually, in his previous birth, he was Hiranyaksh, and then he happened to be Ravana in the next birth, and then he happened to be Shishupal. So Shishupal was Hiranyaksh, and he was killed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead and Narsimhadev Avatar. Then he took birth as Ravana, and there he was defeated by Lord Ram. Now, in this birth, he came as Shishupal, who was the son of Damaghosh and Shrutadevi, who happens to be the sister of Vasudeva and Kunti Mata. So he actually, not Masi, Bua, yeah. So he was related to Lord Shri Krishna. Then what happened was he was way too envious of Shri Krishna. In fact, when he was born, he was deformed in the sense he had 3 eyes and 4 arms, but his parents were actually ready to get rid of him, but there was a divine voice which omen that told him, that asked the parents not to do that, and they told that a person who is going to hold him, one person will come who's going to hold him, and then his extra arms will shed off. And that happened when Shri Krishna came. When Shri Krishna came, he himself was young at that time, but Shishupal was younger. So he held Shishupal in his arms, and then his extra arms fell off. Now also the prophecy was that the person who's going to hold him will make him lose the extra arms, but the same person is going to be the cause of his demise. So then Shrutadevi, his aunt, begged Shri Krishna to pardon Shishupal 100 times. For 100 times. Krishna agreed. Then we know the entire pastime when the Rajasuya Yagya was happening, and when Krishna was supposed to be the guest of honor. And then before that, it so happened that Shishupal was a very nice friend of Rukmi, and Rukmi wanted Rukmini Devi, his sister, to get married to Shishupal. But Shishupal was not who Rukmini Devi was thinking of as her husband, and she wanted to marry Shri Krishna. So she sent one of her Brahmana spies to Shri Krishna with a letter where she confided that she wanted to marry Shri Krishna, and Shri Krishna came and he kidnapped her while she was going to the temple of Mother Gauri. When this all was happening, obviously Shri Krishna was successful in taking Rukmini Devi with him, and that literally added to all the ill feelings that Shishupal had for Shri Krishna, and now he was dead against Shri Krishna. So he wanted to marry Rukmini Devi, but he could not marry Rukmini Devi because Shri Krishna had kidnapped her for himself. Now, that's because she wanted that to happen. So many things were adding on, and now he was totally against Lord Krishna, and he was so jealous. Obviously, this jealousy was coming from the pastimes, we know, from his previous birth, because that's how the boon was given, or the curse was given actually to Jaya and Vijay, that they either take 3 births or they take 7 births as devotees, and they chose to take 3 births as demons. This was a 3rd birth of Shishupal. So this was literally related in to the history. So what happened was, now Shishupal, obviously in the Rajasuya Yagya, we know when Lord Shri Krishna was the guest of honor, Shishupal could barely tolerate that. You can see the picture. In that picture, once he had committed the offense 100th time, that's it. Then Shri Krishna beheaded him with his Sudarshan Chakra. So see this jealousy. What can this jealousy lead to? Normally, in normal human beings also, ordinary people, jealousy can lead to disaster. Now, this jealousy was actually, the story that we did of the genie and the person. He's a normal, ordinary person. Can you please mute yourselves, all of you? Thank you. So this person who lost his eye out of jealousy. So, and he himself was responsible for it. So when you're jealous, you are responsible for it. Nobody else is responsible for it. So the Shishupal, he knew all this. He knew the statements of, the Akashvani. He knew everything, but still, because he was playing the role of Shishupal. Now, what happened was, so Shishupal, so obviously he was beheaded by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we can see that jealousy in normal human beings, when it can be so destructive. So this was against the supreme personality of Godhead Shri Krishna himself. So we can understand that, how this can be so destroying, it's so destructive. So we'll move on to the next slide. Now in this, again, you can see these are the pastimes from Mahabharata, and another jealousy, the story about jealousy, the most famous character from Mahabharata, Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra, we can see. So Dhritarashtra was actually perfect in every regard as a king, to be the prospective king, but the problem was he was blind. Now a blind person cannot be the king. So he had that ill feeling from the very beginning that because there was something lacking in him, he didn't acknowledge that as much as the fact that his kingdom was taken away from him. He nursed a grudge from the very beginning, though he was an acting king, but till the Pandavas grew up. And when the Pandavas grew up, his son, Dhritarashtra's son, Duryodhan, also developed the same ill feeling. What is it that he did not do? He did every possible thing to not treat the Pandavas well, and Dhritarashtra, being the father of such an unruly person like Duryodhan, supported him completely. So when in fact when he sent them, when he was given Khandavpras, the Pandavas were given Khandavpras. Khandavpras was nothing but, in Hindi you call it Khandar. It was a place which had nothing in it, absolutely no flora, no fauna, nothing. And by the mercy of Indra Bhagwan and Vishwakarma, the architect of the demigods, Yudhishthir Maharaj and the other Pandavas were able to make Indraprasth. What is in the word Indraprasth? Indra, where Indra is upasthit, so a kingdom like Lord Indra's. It was that beautiful. It was amazingly, unbelievably beautiful kingdom that they had developed from Khandavprasth. So it became Indraprasth, suitable for Lord Indra to live there, who's none other than the king of the heaven. So we can understand how opulent and how magnificent it would be. Now when Duryodhan came to see that, now there was no bound to his jealousy. He was completely out of control. And especially when he fell in a lake which more so looked like land, and then everybody laughed at him, including Draupadi and everybody else, and this he just could not take. And when he went back, he created a plot against the Pandavas, where he wanted to have a dice game with Shakuni playing from his end. So then you can see in the picture the dice, that was not fair either, so. And before that, when they were young, very young, that time he was sent, these Pandavas, they were sent to Laksha Graha also, which is in Varnavrata, and this whole palace that was built there was made of combustible elements, and it was to be set on fire along with the Pandavas and Mother Kunti in it. Somehow, by Vidura's intelligence, they were saved. And then this Indraprasth, we know Khandavprasth episode happened, and then the dice game took place, and that led to the disrobing of Queen Draupadi amongst the entire Sabha, the Rajya Sabha, which again Lord Krishna protected Govind, because she was calling out for the names of Lord Govinda, and that's how Lord Govinda protected her. And can we move on to the next slide? So we can see this entire jealousy, that he had, Duryodhan and Dhritarashtra. What did it lead to? The battlefield, the battle of Kurukshetra, the battlefield where 640 million people died. So, and all this was due to what? Jealousy. Even in this picture, you can see that when Duryodhan was growing up, and so was Bhim, they were the same age, and Bhim was much stronger than Duryodhan, and he even tried to poison him. And then he went to the, when he was drowned in the water, he went to the Nagalok, where all the serpents basically sucked the poison out of him, and then he was given the nectar. And then we also see that how this was also not enough. Imagine Duryodhana, after doing all this to them, after doing this disrobing of the Draupadi episode, when they was given the gas bath, they were given exile for 12 years, and the 13th year was to go in incognito. And that time also Duryodhana was not done. That time also he sent Durvasa Muni with his 10,000 disciples, just so that Durvasa Muni, he is well known for being very short tempered. So he knew that if the Pandavas were not able to serve Durvasa Muni and his disciples 10,000, then Durvasa Muni is going to curse the Pandavas. With this intention, Duryodhan sent, still it was not done. It was non-stop for them, for the Pandavas. It was, the miseries that they had to face because of Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra. There also Sri Krishna came to their rescue. So the point is, in the end, it led to the Battle of Kurukshetra, the biggest battle in the history, where 640 million people died because of what? Jealousy of Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra. So this is what jealousy can lead to. All right, can we move on to the next slide? Now, in Krishna's pastimes, so we know basically, we've heard the pastime of Pondrik. Pondrik was basically a false god, in the sense he claimed that he was Krishna himself. So in today's time also, we can relate to this very well. There are many fools, many rascals who basically call themselves the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In fact, I was listening to a lecture from my spiritual master, and he was saying that there was this one person in South India who claimed to be God. And when all the devotees, because they had read Srimad Bhagavatam, this is long time back, so when they had read Srimad Bhagavatam, and in Srimad Bhagavatam, we have information about all the prominent incarnations of the Supreme Lord of past, present, and future, and where it also describes about Kalki appearing in a particular gram, yani village in South India. The name is also given, the name of his father is given. So this person in South India was claiming himself to be Kalki. And these devotees, Srila Prabhupada's disciples, they had read about this in Srimad Bhagavatam, that when and where is Kalki going to appear. So when they confronted this person and they told him that, don't you think you're a little too early? Because Kalki is supposed to come at the end of the Kali Yuga, and this is just the beginning. So he quickly changed his statement, saying that, oh, maybe I'm not Kalki, but I'm definitely an incarnation of the Lord. And can you believe it? People even believe these people, such people who have no source, no reference, nothing from Shastras. They just claim to be God. This is not happening now. In fact, it has been happening since Krishna's time. There was this one person, Pondrik. He was very, very envious of the Lord because of the attention that Krishna used to get. And he wanted to enjoy the same kind of attention from everybody else. So he started claiming that he is the real Krishna, and Vasudev, that is Vasudev Krishna, is not the real one. He's the fake one. In fact, he imitated and he copied Krishna to the extent that he would wear the same color clothes. He would carry a morpang, the flute. In fact, he, artificially, he was attaching 2 arms to himself, so that he had 4 arms in which he carried the conch disc, Padma, chakra, everything, all 4 things that Krishna carries. And he claimed to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he said, there is no man who can compete with me. Now, when this news reached Sri Krishna, who was sitting in the assembly hall with Maharaj Ugrasen and everybody else, because this Pondrik actually challenged the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that if you are true, then you come and fight with me, because I know I am true, you're not true. So then what happened was, Pondrik was obviously he was laughed at by everybody. Everybody was laughing at his so-called joke that he was, he had sent it in the form of a message that I am the Supreme Lord. Now Krishna, then he replied that I shall destroy Pondrik and his foolish associates who merely constitute a society of cheaters and cheated. In today's time, we are facing this problem to a great extent. Suddenly, out of the blue, from nowhere, appears a person who calls himself the Supreme Lord. So we need to ask such people, instead of believing them blindly, the easiest is ask them to show their universal form. If they are the Supreme Lord, then they should be able to show their universal form, because that's what Krishna did. In Bhagavad Gita, we see when Arjuna had the doubt, there's a whole chapter by the name of the universal form of the Lord. So to satisfy Arjuna's queries and to remove his doubts, he showed his universal form to Arjuna. Now, Arjuna, being this associate of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, doesn't need to do all this. He is doing all this so that we can learn how to test such false and fake gods, in today's time. So this Pondrik was doing the same thing. So when Lord Krishna, actually, when he saw Pondrik and he saw his posture and his dress, he was full of laughter and he was wondering, what is this, But then, in the end, Lord Krishna did kill Pondrik and at that particular time, Pondrik was staying in Kashi with his friend Kashi Raj, and both basically were killed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is how we see this jealousy. Can imagine, in normal course, if you're jealous of someone, then it can create so much issues for us. He's forget about being jealous of the Supreme Lord. He even went to the extent that he was imitating himself to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, so we can move on to the next slide, please. Now comes the positive aspect. So far, we've understood jealousy cannot be used in the service of the Lord, no matter what. This is one vice which we need to be really, really scared of, in the sense, if jealousy is taken care of, every other vice will be taken care of. That is for sure. It's like, I don't know how it's different for everybody. For me personally, when I try to do something and there's a list of things that I need to do and accomplish that in the same, I have that few number of hours and I have to do, I choose the hardest one to do first, because I personally feel that if the hardest one is taken care of, rest I know I'll be able to do. So it's a different approach for everybody else, but generally this is what I heard in one of the lectures also, because there was Maharajji was saying that people find devotional service in terms of different, by Srila Prabhupada's mercy, we have so many services, chanting, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, all these. So it starts with hearing and chanting. So people were asking this question to Maharajji, that should we do chanting, prioritize chanting, or should we prioritize reading, or should we prioritize our other devotional activities? So Maharajji said, see, chanting is one thing we have to do, no matter what. 16 rounds every single day, we have to do. And Maharajji was saying that we should first finish our japa and then everything else will fall in place. So this is exactly what we should be doing. So jealousy, as in jealousy, it cannot be used in the service of the Lord. It is not possible, because this is one vice which can lead only to destruction. But what is it that we can do? We can stop it at spiritual competition. Spiritual competition is what happens when you're jealous. You want to do better than the other person. You want to prove the other person wrong, or belittle the person, or look lowly on them, and just for your own satisfaction. And what is happening within? You are being frustrated. But when we use this only to the extent of spiritual competition. Because see, jealousy starts from comparison, competition, jealousy, envy. That's how it goes, right? So we don't need to go to the extent of jealousy. We'll stop right there at spiritual competition. In this picture, you can see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is cleaning the Gundicha temple. Why? Because Lord Jagannath was supposed to come there after the Rath Yatra. So what was Mahaprabhu doing at that time? When he was, he started with small pebbles, and then he first he cleaned the big slabs, then he came to small pebbles, then even to sand. That's how spectacular clean he made. What was he doing when he was doing that? He was teaching other people to clean. He was actually developing that spiritual competition in them, that let's see who cleans it the best. So why was he doing that? Because the Lord was supposed to come. Lord Jagannath was supposed to come in the Gundicha temple. So I'll read what is written and then I'll explain. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu washed and cleansed the Gundicha temple with his devotees and associates. In this way, he made the temple as cool and bright as his own heart. And thus he made the place befitting for Lord Sri Krishna to sit. Similarly, each of us has to clean his or her heart to make it a fit place for the Lord. Two things are happening here. Firstly, he's developing a healthy spiritual competition just to serve the Lord. Everybody wanted to please Mahaprabhu, and everybody was trying their best to clean it the most. So, yes, the spiritual competition was there, cleanliness was being taken care of, but then what was to happen after that? The Lord was supposed to come. So, unless your heart is pure, it is clean, and as we said, jealousy is the worst of it. Unless it is clean, the Lord is not going to come and reside in our hearts. So it is very, very important to clean our heart to welcome the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And for that, we need to make sure, these the big slabs and the small slabs and then the pebbles and then the sand, all these represent different anarthas, which we need to get rid of. So that's what Mahaprabhu was teaching us from this particular example of how it should be cleaned. And by, basically for the pleasure of the Lord. So this competition of who does it better for the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very, very much welcome. Srila Prabhupada said spiritual competition is healthy, but we have to make sure that we stop it right there. Okay, then we can move on to the next slide, please. Now, here, I don't know if you're aware of it or not, but every year the book distributions that, we have the marathon in the month of December and the book marathon month. And there we, in Krishna conscious, in our ISKCON movement also, we have scores from different countries, which tell how many books are distributed by that particular region, that particular zone. Now, Srila Prabhupada was very big on book distribution. The reason being is that there have been stories in the past where a person who bought the book did not read the book was lying there in the shelf, and his grandson, grandchildren, they ended up reading the book and they became devotees of the Lord. In fact, our book distributor here in Potomac area, Washington, D.C., where I live, has a similar story. He is a big book distributor, and he had no clue of Krishna consciousness movement or any of the Srila Prabhupada's books. But now he recalls and he says that when he was in college, he ended up reading the Science of Self-Realization book, which he found in his bookshelf. Nobody was reading it, but he ended up reading that. And after he read that, that's how he slowly got into the movement. So the point is that Srila Prabhupada was very, very big on book distribution, because as you can see the saying where Srila Prabhupada is saying that what is the use of your 2 minutes of preaching? The person will hear and go away. But if he takes a book, he is eternally benefit. This is not talking about devotees, by the way. Devotees, for them, lectures and hearing is very, very important. But he's talking about people in general who are very new to Krishna consciousness. If they have a book, they can turn back and refer that book to whatever they remember from the lecture. But if they don't have the book, then it is very, very difficult to connect, because in those days Srila Prabhupada used to give lectures in one place and then at a place where the people from the previous classes were not there. So it was hard for people to track where Srila Prabhupada was. But the book was a reference. Book is where it stays. So similarly, this Prabhuji in our book distribution marathon, campaign, he also said the same. So somebody must have taken in his family the science of self-realization by the mercy of the devotees who were distributing the books, but that person may not have cared to read the book, but still the book was there in his bookshelf, which he ended up reading, and now he's one of the biggest book distributors here in North America. So book distribution is very, very important. In fact, Srila Prabhupada used to say that this is the greatest welfare activity for all the people in this world. So how is this related to jealousy? Again, as I said, there is a competition. How many books each zone is going to distribute? And then they want to do better and better every passing year. Like for Bhadra campaign, which is the distribution of Srimad Bhagavatam. We have seen this, over a period of years, how we've been improving in North America. Similarly, I've seen the book scores from Mayapur and New Delhi in India. Back there, New Delhi and Mayapur, they're always in competition. One year, New Delhi is scoring the most, and the next year, probably Mayapur is scoring the most. And these book distributors, they have a very healthy competition. It's not that they are jealous of each other, but they want to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead the most. So they try their level best where they can serve the Lord the best with whatever means they have. So like that, book distribution or cleaning of the heart or doing any service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to the extent where satisfaction of Krishna is the most important, then it is fine. In mundane material world, jealousy leads to harming people. Animosity and when somebody is envious of you, they end up harming. Jealousy, they reach that stage. They're suffering from within when you're very jealous. So all this is not required. We just want to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead to the best of our ability. And for that, the spiritual competition is perfect. It is right. Srila Prabhupada said spiritual competition is healthy. So as we can see the examples like this of book distribution, and you all can go and check the scores. They're available on Google, and if you look for it, you'll see that how the number of books which are distributed by a particular zone, and how the next year the same zone does better than the neighboring zone. So this is most welcome. Then we'll move on to the next slide. Now, see, the thing is that anything and everything comes from Krishna. So even you may say that, does jealousy also come from Krishna? It does come from the spiritual world, in the sense where we have, you all have heard of the two parties. One is of Chandravali and one is of Srimati Radharani. But the purpose what? The purpose is the pleasure of the Lord. So they both fight for attention of the Supreme Lord, just to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So it is true that everything comes and originates from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in that sense, yes, jealousy and enviousness is found in these two parties of Chandravali and Srimati Radharani. But again, the ulterior motive for them is the satisfaction of Shri Krishna. And that is not available in this material world. Here, everything is a perverted reflection of this material, of the spiritual world. So the jealousy or so-called competition which is there in Srimati Radharani and Chandravali, and the the motive, the ulterior motive is the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. So the jealousy part is still here in the material world, but the goal is not common. It's not for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. That is the problem, because this material world is a perverted reflection of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All right. So I would like to end here, and if anybody has any questions or comments, we can take.
So I used to have a question, but now I don't.
Anybody has any questions?
So, like, what do you mean by cleaning the heart? I don't get that.
So when I say that we should clean our heart, is we should get rid of all the anarthas we have, Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Mad, Matsarya, everything. Because in presence of any of these bad qualities, presence of the Supreme Lord is not possible. So we need to work on ourselves. And what is the best way to work on ourselves? Chanting. Cheto Darpan Marjana. When we chant, the mirror of the heart gets clean. So chanting is the most important way to clean our hearts. You know what happens when we chant? The holy name is non-different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when we chant, we hear. So through our ears, the Lord, because he is non-different from his name, he enters our heart. And there when he sees whatever is, so if you go to your friend's place, and it's totally messy, his apartment is totally messy, you'll just say, okay, when you're done cleaning, you call me, then I'll come. But your true friend, your best friend, when he comes to your apartment and he sees that it is messy, he will help you clean the place. He will make room for himself to sit. That is why Sri Krishna is our best friend, because when he enters through our ear into our heart, when he sees the mess there, mess in the sense of all these anarthas that we have, he helps us clean that place and makes room for himself. Okay, make sense?
Yes.
Anybody has anything else to say? So what is the takeaway of the class today? Tell me.
Mataji, can I say?
Yes, please.
Basically that jealousy leads to basically destruction of your life. So like you should not be jealous of people.
Yes. And what is healthy? Spiritual competition is healthy. That's the only way you can use this vice in the service of the Lord. Otherwise, jealousy cannot be used in the service of the Lord. Okay. Very good. Anybody else has anything else to say? Was it clear? Did you understand what I said?
Yes, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji.
Yes,
Mataji.
Okay.
Yes, Mataji.
Good. So anybody has anything to say?
No. No, thank you.